Hello, and thank you for joining us for a story tonight. We have The Buckwheat from Hans Christian Andersen. When you pass a field of buckwheat after a thunderstorm, you will often find it singed and turned quite black. It is just as if a fire had passed over it, and the farmer will say, "The lightning did that to it." But why did it do that to it? I shall tell you what the sparrow told me. It is a story which the sparrow had heard from an old willow tree that grew near to a buckwheat field, and which grows there still. It's a most respectable old willow tree, as well as being a big one, but it's old and crinkled. It's split right down the middle of it, and grass and brambles are growing out of the crack. The tree bends forward, its branches hanging right down to the ground, and looking for all the world like green hair. Growing in all the fields round about was corn, rye and barley and oats, the lovely oats which, when ripe, looked like a crowd of yellow canaries perching on a branch. The corn grew ever so beautifully, and the heavier it got, the deeper it bowed down in humbleness. But there was also a field of buckwheat, which happened to be facing the old willow tree. The buckwheat didn't bow its head like the rest of the corn. It swaggered, proud and erect. "I fancy I'm as rich as the wheat," it said. "Besides, I'm a lot more handsome. My flowers are as beautiful as the blossom on the apple tree. I and my family are a delight to the eye. Do you know anybody grander than we are, old willow tree?" And the willow tree nodded his head as if to say, "Why, yes, indeed I do." But the buckwheat was so bursting with pride that it said, "The silly tree! It's so old, the grass is growing in its stomach." All at once a dreadful storm arose. All the flowers of the field folded up their petals and bowed their delicate heads as the storm swept over them. But the buckwheat swaggered with pride. "Bow your head like us," said the flowers. "I've no need to," said the buckwheat. "Bow your head like us," cried the corn. "Here's the spirit of the storm. He has wings which reach down from the clouds to the earth, and he'll cut you in two before you can beg for his mercy." "Well, now, I won't bow my head," said the buckwheat. "Shut your flowers and bow your stalks," said the old willow tree. "Don't look up at the lightning when the cloud bursts. Not even human beings dare to, for looking into the lightning you will see heaven, and that's a sight to blind even humans. So what would happen to us ground things if we dared to, we who are so much humbler?" "So much humbler?" said the buckwheat. "Now I'm going to look into heaven." And so, in its pride and conceit, it did. It was exactly as if the world were ablaze, the way it lighted. When in time the storm had passed over, the flowers and the corn stood in the calm, clear air, so very refreshed after the rain. But the buckwheat had been burnt by the lightning, as black as cinder. It was dead and useless, a weed in the field. And the old willow tree stirred its branches in the wind, and from its green leaves fell big drops of water, as though it were weeping. And the sparrows asked, "What are you crying for? It's so lovely here. See how the sun is shining? See how the clouds are passing over? Do you smell the scent of flowers and bushes? What are you crying for, old willow tree?" And the willow tree told them about the buckwheat's pride, conceit, and punishment, which always follows. I, who am telling the story, heard it from the sparrows. They told it to me one evening when I asked them a fairy tale. The Buckwheat from Hans Christian Andersen. Thank you so much for listening. Good night, everybody.